Permitless carry is now the law in Texas. That means people 21 and older can carry a handgun in public without a license. There are exceptions for felons, and buyers will still be required to pass a background check at a gun store. But even though the license requirement is gone, some gun sellers still plan to push gun buyers to get training. Maggie Glenn takes a closer look.
This was always legal since 1869 to open carry rifle, shotgun. That's legal. Starting September 1st, all these here will be legal to open carry or concealed carry.
Michael Cargill is making sure his customers are up on the latest. Now that a license to carry in public won't be necessary, he's pushing his clients to educate themselves after a purchase.
We actually failed at least one person a week in our class because they don't know gun safety. You'll learn in a classroom or life will teach you by way of getting convicted of a crime, getting charged with a crime, or dying.
Those calling for gun reform are more worried about other kinds of buyers, since the background check is only required at federally licensed brick and mortar stores.
Many private gun sales are facilitated by meeting online. Folks can go around the background check system that way.
But gun rights advocates point to added penalties in the new law for those caught carrying when they shouldn't be.
If you are a prohibited person and you get access to a firearm, you're looking at a third-degree felony by being in possession of a firearm when you're not supposed to. So if they're willing to take that chance, and it's not going to be a misdemeanor anymore, it's going to be a felony.
Maggie Glenn joins us now. Law enforcement groups opposed permitless carry. Obviously, it still went through, but they got lawmakers to make a few adjustments. What changed?
Well, Josh, they did get lawmakers to add a requirement for the state to offer a free online firearm safety training course. They also altered a provision that would have banned officers from questioning a person based on them having a handgun. But there's still concern. Something we don't really have a way of truly gauging until the law is in effect for some time is how much more often we'll see Texans openly carrying in our day-to-day lives. That's one concern voiced by the gun control group Moms Demand Action.
How does law enforcement know? When there's no permit required, how do they know? How do I know when I go to the grocery store or down to Landa Park? Has that person carrying a handgun does he know how to load and unload it? Has he ever, done target practice? We don't know.
And those are questions we've heard from other people worried about the impact of the law. I know. How do people who support permitless carry respond to concerns like that?
Well, Josh, I think it's really important to remember that this bill went through at a time when many parts of Texas were seeing higher crime rates. Supporters tend to emphasize the importance of removing obstacles to our Second Amendment rights and making it easier for people to be able to protect themselves. But Republicans who back the law also say this really won't have an impact on our daily lives. Here's what State Representative James White said when I asked him about the effect of this new law.
In the past, you had Texans unlicensed with their small arm in their car, and that is perfectly legal. The only thing is I cannot get out of the car with the weapon, because that person wouldn't have had the license. So when you control for all these factors, like some of you, which you've discovered, Maggie, really the only thing is the person can get out of their truck.
Representative White echoed Governor Abbott and other Republican leaders calling permitless carry an important step to protect the rights of law-abiding gun owners.
Maggie, before lawmakers gavelled back in January, there was actually talk of legislation to tighten restrictions on guns. Some Texans were calling for action after deadly mass shootings. What happened?
Right. Well, there were some immediate roundtables held directly after those tragic mass shootings in El Paso and Midland, Odessa. But there's a lot of disappointment since this is the first official session that all lawmakers have convened since those tragic mass shootings.
I think everyone can remember that Governor Abbott and Republican lawmakers promised action on gun safety after the tragic loss of life in El Paso and Midland, Odessa, not to mention all the injuries. And now we know that they are full of empty promises.
So did any measures in response to the mass shootings make it through the legislature?
Well, 3 bills made it through. One created a statewide active shooter alert system. Another aims to improve the way schools conduct active shooter drills. Only one gun control measure passed. That's the so-called lie and try law, which makes it a state crime to lie on a background check to purchase a firearm. But Other bills focused on gun safety and mass violence prevention have failed.
All right, Maggie Glenn, thank you for joining us. It's not just COVID putting Texas healthcare workers at risk.
These incidents happen. Unfortunately, they happen daily inside our healthcare facilities.
The threat of violent attacks facing doctors and nurses and how some plans to protect them came up short.